I am JV Srinivasa, working as a assistant professor in CST department at Marri Laxman Reddy Institute of Technology and Management, Dundigal, Hyderabad, Telangana state. Today I will discuss about web technologies. In web technologies, I will discuss about Java Servlets and JSP. These are my course objects. These are my course outcomes. These are the textbooks I referred. Web Technologies, Uttam K. Roy, Oxford University Press, the complete reference PHP, Steven Hosler and the Tata Megler publication. Coming to references, Web Programming, Building Internet Applications by Chris Bates in second edition, Java Server Pages, Angst Bergsten, STO O'Reilly. Introduction to Java Servlet. What is in Java Servlet? Java Servlet is a Java program that runs on Java-enabled web server or application server. It handles client requests, processes them, and generates responses dynamically. Servers are the backbone of the many server-side Java applications due to their efficiency and scalability. Java Servlet features. These features are work on the server side, efficiently handle complex client requests, generate dynamic responses, provide better performance compared to older technologies like CGI, highly scalable in enterprises level web applications. Java Servlet architecture. So this is an Java server architecture. This is an client side. This is an server side. This is an servlet. This is an database. Here client sends the request to the web server. The web server contains the web container. All the requests are stored into the web container. Here, what is the main use of the Java servlet, or what is the main functionality of the Java servlet? Here, the main functionality of the Java servlet is the servlet obtains the request from the web server, process this request, and sends the response to the web server. The web server finally sends the response back to the client. So the main aim or the main task of the servlet is obtain the request from the web server, and process this request and sends the response back to the web server. Servlet architecture workflow. So the execution of the servlet basically involves six basic steps. The first one is the client sends the request to the web server. For example, this is an client, this is an server. Here the client sends the request to the web server. The web server receives the request. So after sending the request, the server receives this request, and these requests are stored into the container. The web server passes the request to the corresponding servlet. So I already told you the servlets are executed in server side. So in server side we have servlet. So after receiving the request, the servlet obtain the request from the web server. Next, the servlet processes the request on generating the responses in the form of output. The servlet sends the response back to the web server. So after receiving the request can be processed, and the the response is sent back to the server. The web server sends the response back to the client, and the client browser displays it on the screen. Next, coming to Common Gateway Interfaces, CGI. What is an CGI? What is the main role of the CGI? And what is what are the main difference between servlets and CGI? Now, CGI is CGI is actually an external application that is written by using any of the programming languages like C or C++, and this is responsible for processing client requests and generating the dynamic content. So here the major difference is servlets are designed by only using the Java language, whereas coming to CGI is developed using any programming languages like C or C++. Next point. In CGI application, when a client make a request to access dynamic web applications, web pages, the web server perform the following operations. First, the operation is it first locates the request web page, that is the required CGI application using URL. It then creates a new process to service the client's request, invokes the CGI application within the process, and pass the request information to the application. Collect the responses from the CGI application, and finally destroy the process, prepare the HTTP response, and send it to the client. CGI Common Gateway Diagram. So this is client, this is the server, this is an CGI application. Here client sends the request to the server. The CGI obtain the request from the server. After obtain the request, it process the request. And finally sends the response back to the server. Here, for each request, a new process will be created. What are the main differences between the servlets and CGI? Servlets are portable and efficient. Coming to CGI is not an portable. In servlets, sharing data is possible. Coming to CGI, sharing data is not possible. Servlets can directly communicate with the web servers, whereas CGI it's cannot directly communicated with the web servers. Servlets are less expensive than CGI. CGI is more expensive than servlets. Servlets can handle the cookies. CGI cannot handle the cookies. Okay, what is an cookie? A cookie is a small small text file. It is sent by the web server, which is stored in the web browser. What is the main use of the cookie? The cookie, it remembers the user's information. Life cycle of the servlet. A servlet is a Java program that runs on a server to handle client requests and generated dynamic responses. The servlet lifecycle is entirely managed by the servlet container, which uses the Jakarta servlet interface to manage servlet objects. States of the servlet lifecycle. During the life cycle of the servlet, it follows the start state and end state. Between the start state and end state, it follows the some some phases. So these are load and instantiation, initialized, handle request. States of the servlet lifecycle. The servlet lifecycle consists of four main states. These are loading servlets, initializing servlet, handling client requests, and destroy a servlet. The first stage of the servlet lifecycle involves loading and initializing the servlet. The servlet container performs the following operations. These are loading, instantiation. uh, so coming to loading, the servlet container loads the servlet class into memory. In instantiation, the container creates an instance of a servlet using the no argument constructor. When is a servlet loaded? During the application startup, the servlet is loaded on the first client request. Next, initializing a servlet. Coming to initializing the servlet, after initialization, the container initialize the servlet using the init method. Init method is called once in the servlet life cycle. It prepares the servlet to handle requests. For example, database connection setup called once, unlike service which is called per request. See, public void init. This is the example for init method. Public void init through servlet exception initialization code. The third point is handling request. Once initialized, the servlet is ready to handle requests. Request and response objects. Servlet request and servlet response objects are created for each request. For HTTP servlet request and servlet response objects are used. The service method. The container calls service for each request. Determine the HTTP request type, do, get, post, put, and delete. Delegates the request to appropriate methods, do, get, do, put, etc. For example, public void service, servlet request, servlet response through servlet exceptions, IO exception. So here the code for handling request and generate responses. Destroying a servlet. When the servlet container decides to remove the servlet, it follows these steps which are listed below. Allow active threads to complete and allow invoke the destroy methods, and finally release servlet instances. Coming to allow active threads to complete, the container ensures that all threads executing the service method complete their tasks. Next, coming to invoke the destroy method. The container calls the destroy method to allow the servlet to release resources. For example, closing database connection, freeing of memory. Next, coming to release servlet instances. After the destroy method is executed, the servlet container releases all references to the servlet instances, making it eligible for garbage collection. Servlet lifecycle methods. There are three lifecycle methods of a servlet. These are init method, service method, and destroy method. So, init method calls only one time. Service method handle multiple requests and sends the responses. Destroy method calls only one time. Java Server Pages JSP. What is in JSP? What is the main use of the JSP? A JSP stands for Jakarta Server Pages or Java Server Pages. A JSP is a simple web page. It contains JSP elements and template text. It contains JSP elements and template text. It is server-side technology that is used for creating web applications. It is used to create dynamic web content, and JSP consists of both HTML pages and JSP tags or JSP elements. In this, JSP tags are used to insert Java code into the HTML pages. It is an advanced version of the servlet technology, that is web-based technology that helps us to create dynamic and platform independent web pages. How is JSP more advantageous than servlet? They are easy to maintain. No recompilation or redeployment is required. Less coding is required in JSP. JSP has access to entire API of the JSP. And finally, JSP are extended version of the servlet. Coding in JSP is easy to use and learn. It does not require advanced knowledge of Java, reduction in the length of the code, JavaScriptlets, JSP expressions, connection to database is easier, portable, powerful, flexible, and easy to maintain. Thank you.